And welcome to Meet the Press Reports. We are kicking off Season 4, and to do that, we're delving into a topic that impacts every American at some point in their lives, public schools, and how they have become center stage for our country's culture wars. When Republican Glenn Youngkin won his bid for governor in blue-leaning Virginia in 2021, the Republican Party nationally took note of what he made his #1 issue, education. As parents became increasingly frustrated with their school's handling of the COVID pandemic, more simply started showing up at board meetings, protesting for and against things like mask mandates and reopening schools. But what began as pandemic frustration soon spiraled into much more, with parents, many of them conservative, calling for wholesale changes in curricula, books to be pulled, and demanding more say in their children's education. And as Youngkin's victory showed, this newly emerged power of the parent at the ballot box is real, not as manufactured as some might think. The Republican Party seems to have taken notice of this constituency, and it's begun to build messaging around it. As you know, they're hoping desperately to recover in the suburbs. So could this be a boost to them in the upcoming midterms? Or could they take it too far and alienate those same voters in critically important suburban voters that they were hoping to win over? NBC News senior national correspondent Kate Snow traveled to Brevard County, Florida, to see what the school board activist organizations and parents in this one community can tell us how this movement's gotten nationalized.
You failed. You failed. You failed. You failed.
It's the newest battleground in American politics.
Resign or be removed.
All of you must go, and we will take back our schools.
Turning local school board meetings into the front lines of the culture wars.
Racism is systemic and it is institutional.
Critical race theory, in fact, pits black people against white people.
Can we get a motion to remove masks?
Parents and students engaging in heated debate over hot-button issues.
It's a Tuesday evening in March, and we're in Brevard County, Florida. We've come to the school board meeting here. We're spending time in one county to look at how school board meetings have become so divisive. But beyond that, to look at how the pandemic created a lot more activism and turned educational issues into political showdowns.
Brevard County covers a huge stretch of Florida's Atlantic coast, including the Space Coast, home to the Kennedy Space Center. 69,000 students attend their 84 schools, the largest employer in the county.
The book Genderqueer was in our school libraries. Had Moms for Liberty not brought that book to your attention, it might still be there.
On this night, public comments centered on removing books deemed inappropriate from school libraries.
Just because it's a description of sex doesn't necessarily make it pornographic.
Chairwoman Misty Belford opens every meeting asking people to behave.
You may be escorted, detained, or arrested depending on the conduct.
Belford has served on the board for 8 years.
I heard you at the start of the meeting lay out the rules and say, if we have to, we will arrest people. It's a pretty dramatic thing to say at a school board meeting.
It is, and it's disheartening that we have to say that. But we had, for a while there, some pretty raucous meetings.
You had a meeting in October where you had to literally kick everybody out.
We are going to clear the room.
No.
Yeah. We did. The audience started to get very loud, and it was reaching the point of being unsafe.
Belford is worried about the impact on teachers and administrators.
I'm blessed to be serving a group of 9,000 people that wake up every single day and pour their heart and soul. Sorry.
What upsets you?
Our people are getting beat up. And there is no more noble job, and you won't find a group more committed to our kids. And they are fallout in all of this, unfortunately.
It's a dramatic change.
It is a very dramatic change.
That change came during the pandemic.
You pulled your son out of the Brevard out of the Brevard schools.
Yeah, while I was on the school board, we voted to mandate masks and other COVID policies that I didn't agree with for children.
A few weeks later, conservative school board member Tina Deskovich was ousted. She formed Moms for Liberty in December 2020.
Did you sort of see an opening? Like a need?
Yeah, absolutely. Parental rights constantly get stepped on. But the bigger problem was parental neglect. Parents were not involved, not checked in.
Why do you think so many parents have joined your group and are so much more active?
Because the establishment has gone too far. where they were slowly over time stepping on parental rights, they have just completely stomped on them in 2020. And parents were, their eyes were opened. And not
because of the pandemic?
Yeah, because of the pandemic.
You think parents, because they were managing their own kids' schooling, got more of an insight?
Absolutely.
I didn't even know my school board's names.
Ashley Hall is the president of Moms for Liberty in Brevard County.
One of the things that we're finding is that a lot of the curriculum is one-sided.
Does one-sided sort of translate as liberal, more liberal policies?
It's definitely a left-leaning ideology, yes.
Do you want to ban certain books from libraries?
No, banning is not at all what we are.
Do you want to remove certain books from libraries?
We would like to challenge the books that are pornographic in nature and sexually explicit, and we have found pornographic, very sexually explicit, arousing, erotic descriptions of sexual actions within books in our middle schools and high schools.
Their list of 10 books includes the 1975 Judy Blume novel Forever and National Book Award winner Alana Arnold's Red Hood. They support Republican measures led by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, like a bill dubbed the Stop Woke Act and a bill opponents call Don't Say Gay.
Nowhere in the bill does it say you can't say gay.
It says you can't discuss at certain ages sexuality, gender identity.
Right, and that's coming for grades K through 3. Really, it should be through 6th grade.
You would rather it go further?
In the primary grades, yes.
There are young people who transition who have a gender identity that they weren't born with.
Absolutely.
How is it fair to them to not talk about it?
Well, it's not talking about it. It's just saying that the teachers in the schools should not be pushing this on our children.
Please don't try and force your children, my children, our children, to follow what is deemed best for your household.
To counter Moms for Liberty, dad of 3, Jabari Hosey, built a grassroots group on the left called Families for Safe Schools.
Legislation just passed that opponents call Don't Say Gay.
I feel like it's a slap in the face to our LGBTQ plus community, especially our kids in schools who want to have a safe space. And what they're creating with that, what they created with that bill is saying this space is not safe for you.
They've argued for LGBTQ rights, against changing the way race is taught, and against removing books from libraries.
We have policies and procedures in place when there's content that's deemed inappropriate and goes through a process through our school district. What they're asking for is parents do that for them. And we feel like it's very dangerous.
Hosey believes they have about the same number of members as Moms for Liberty in Brevard County, but there's one thing they don't have: money.
Where does Families for Safe Schools get its funding?
Our funding? Well, we don't really have any funding.
You don't have funding?
Our funding actually...
What's your budget right now?
Our budget is 0 right now. Anything that we've done has been through our board, literally our own pockets. We've...
board members paying for things, for posters
board members
or whatever,
paying for
supplies.
posters, going to Staples and Walmart ourselves.
Moms for Liberty, on the other hand, now has chapters across Florida and in 34 states with an annual budget approaching $500,000. They had a booth at the conservative CPAC convention. Governor DeSantis just nominated one of their county leaders for the State Board of Education. The group accepts donations and has a booming merchandise business.
Do you have any large donors? Do you have like one person or several people who are giving large amounts of money?
We are growing into that. We've had a lot of press exposure the last few months, and so we are actively seeking large donors. We now have national stage and national recognition.
And you're in an election year, so there may well be large donors out there.
Oh yeah, it's the year of the parent.
They recently formed a super PAC, hoping to run ads in national races.
I believe their political strategy is to create chaos and divide and get people engaged through fear.
Jennifer Jenkins has drawn fire as an outspoken liberal school board member in Brevard County.
This political rhetoric about mask wearing is more important to them than supporting the funding of a fire department CPE program in Palm Bay.
The incumbent you beat, Tina Deskovich, she then went on to found Moms for Liberty. Do you think in some way you prompted that to happen?
Oh, 100%. I jokingly apologized to people for that, that I gave her the position and opportunity to create that organization.
After school board debates about masking policies and about the rights of LGBTQ students, protesters showed up outside her home.
Hell no! They were screaming that my husband is a pedophile, that I'm a pedophile, that I'm a child abuser. They were screaming curse words at people who were walking their dogs and pushing baby strollers. When I was reading my daughter a bedtime story, and she legitimately asked me, "Mommy, when are these mean people going to leave? Are they going to be back tomorrow?" I just became infuriated.
The next morning, plants in their yard were chopped down, and the letters FU were burned into the grass.
Moms for Liberty says they had nothing to do with that. Those were not their members. Do you believe that?
I believe you can't strike a match and light a fire and claim that you have nothing to do with that wildfire.
Do you all feel like the school board here has gotten politicized?
Yes.
Big time.
I do, yeah.
We sat down with 4 parents. Larry Nace and Jazzy Hennings lean left. Alan Berenstain and Angie Stanek lean right.
And our school board specifically is apolitical. It's nonpartisan.
The seats are nonpartisan.
Right.
Yes.
The election process is nonpartisan.
Yeah.
The seats are nonpartisan, but the people aren't nonpartisan.
What do you make of what the Florida State Legislature's been doing recently? There have been a few bills around educational issues, the Anti-Woke Act, the one that opponents call Don't Say Gay. What do you all make of those? Can I start, Angie, with you?
From what I understand, it covers kindergarten through 3rd grade, that there should not be any type of books or curriculum around gender.
Gender identity and sexual orientation.
And sexual orientation. And I personally feel that that's appropriate. I wouldn't want my kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, or 3rd grader talking about that, whether it is gay, whether it is straight, that...
I disagree. But I don't fully understand the context of what the legislation is either. I mean, like, if it's part of curriculum, I don't know why that would or wouldn't be part of the curriculum.
The board chair said it's never been a part of curriculum for that age group.
But to say that this can't be spoken about is also saying that it means that these kids can't acknowledge the families that they come from, or their neighbors, or their teachers, because it's not just kids that have gender identity or sexual orientation. All people have that. Mm-hmm. And it sends, I think, a terrible message.
Alan, how do you feel about it?
I've read through the bill myself. There are more components to it than this component. This is the one that people freak out about a little bit more. My husband and I live a life where we talk about these issues with our children. I think they talk about all kinds of stuff at school anyways, and we want to equip them with the right way to think about these things.
You would rather them not have the conversation?
We have those conversations at home. We think that at this tender age, they need to hear it in a way that's important for our family.
What I wonder is, why was the legislation necessary to begin with?
Yeah.
If the schools are not including that in the curriculum, what was the problem they were trying to solve? What was broken that needed to be fixed?
Where do you all think we're headed?
I'm generally an optimist, but I feel pretty pessimistic about the state of things. And I think groups like Moms for Liberty do bring more divisiveness and make things more political.
I've met actually some of the people from Moms for Liberty, and they're people who love their children, only want the best for their children, and question, and they ask questions, and they actually criticize what's going on. I wish we all had that kind of power, that kind of confidence in ourselves to question everything that people say.
What I hope happens in the future, that there's good, productive public discourse on all the issues that's not divisive and not personal or attacking in any way. I think just fueling that divisiveness and continuing the circus campaign, I hope that's not where it goes.
Kate Snow joins me now to break down her reporting, sort of an after-action report, if you will. You know, Kate, one of the parents mentioned in your piece said, hey, these school board seats in Florida, they're all nonpartisan. Well, boy, nonpartisan, very subjective, right? Eye of the beholder. You know, I think, is there such thing as far as people are concerned? But in all honesty, and yes, you know, I know that there was some movement to try to put party ID next to the ballot names. It didn't make it in the legislature. But let's be realistic. How politicized are these school board races going to get in Brevard?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting, Chuck. So at the moment, you've got 5 people on the Brevard County School Board, and you saw the woman who got emotional, Misty, who's the chairwoman. She's nonpartisan, and she really tries to stick by that. She doesn't really express partisan ideas at the meetings. The other 4 are split ideologically. 2 very much lean right and 2 very much lean left. They have an election coming up this November. While we all have midterm elections, they're going to have a school board election. 3 seats are up right now. And I can tell you that they're heavily contested. Both Moms for Liberty and Families for Safe Schools are running candidates, trying to unseat the other. And the shift could really change. It may not be as balanced as it is right now at the end of the day.
And it sounds like the amount of money that could be in these races, you know, what probably used to be yard signs and door knocking.
Yeah.
I mean, Moms for Liberty, it sounds like they're going to have millions of dollars.
Yeah, and I think they won't just spend on, they will spend on school board races, Tina Deskovich said to me, and she, of course, the national founder, but they'll also probably spend on congressional races if they can get that super PAC up and running. I mean, that's their goal, is to get more involved. Look at what happened in Pennsylvania. You remember, Chuck, right around Philadelphia, a lot of school board races became contentious last year. I think we're going to see that all over the country.
Oh, boy, and you conflate them with our nationalized midterm elections. Yeah. I think we have an idea. This is going to be an issue that's in many races that aren't just school board races. Kate Snow, terrific report. Thank you.